The third poem of the book Flamingo, Keeping Quiet, written by Pablo Neruda. This poem is a sort of exercise in meditation. It wants all the human beings to be quiet for some time so that we get time to introspect ourselves, we get time to look within ourselves so that something good, creative, purposeful, something which is good for the whole humanity comes out of from us. Keeping quiet. Let's read something about the poet. The poem has been written by Pablo Neruda. He was born in 1904 and he died in 1973. It is the pen name of Neftali Ricardo Reis Basualto, who was born in the town of Parral in Chile, the actual name of the poet. Neruda's poems are full of easily understood images which make them no less beautiful. This is interesting here. It is not necessary that for a poem to be beautiful, it needs to have a decorative language. Here, Pablo Neruda used to write in a very simple language, in a very clear and easily understood language. That also made his poems beautiful. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. In this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection. Quiet, silent introspection means to look within ourselves and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. Before you read, what does the title of the poem suggest to you? What do you think the poem is about? When you read the title, Keeping Quiet, we get to know something that it would be about keeping silent. Now let's take a look at the poem. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. The poet in the poem, he is asking people, he is urging, requesting people, and tell them that now we will all count to 12. 12 can be uh, 12 hours of the day, 12 minutes, or 12 seconds. He says that after this time we will all keep still. Still means without doing any activity. After counting to 12, we will all keep still. We will not do any work. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. He is requesting people that let's try it. Let's, for once on the face of the earth. Face means surface of the earth. Surface of the earth means globe. Let's, for once on this whole globe, on this whole earth, let's not speak in any language. Languages are many. Language can be your mother tongue, language can be language of the eyes, language, sign language. So he asks us not to speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second. He is requesting us to let's try to be silent, to be quiet for 1 second to start with, and not move our arms so much. When we do any work, we use our hands, we use our arms for the work. So he wants us to stop doing any work. He wants us not to move our arms. The other meaning of arms here is linked to weapons. He wants people of the world not to indulge, not to use their weapons also, so that there is peace in this world. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. The poet says that when people will stop doing their work, it is going to be an exotic moment. It is going to be a splendid, it's going to be a magnificent, marvelous moment, without rush, without engines. Generally, we see people, they are always in a hurry, they are stressed, they have something or the other to do in their lives. But when all will be still, they will not do any work, there would not be any kind of rush, hurry among the people, without engines. The engines that are used for running the machinery, even they will not work. There will be absence of the engines running in people's lives. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Students, you must have observed in your class also that when the class all of a sudden turns silent, everybody starts staring at each other. That moment is an exotic moment, extraordinary moment. So similarly, when people will not do any work, they will sit together, they will all be together, it's going to be a sudden means which happens all of a sudden, strangeness, extraordinary moment it's going to be. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. Fishermen who venture deep inside the sea to catch fish, They are not necessarily catching whales here. Fishermen who go deeper into the sea to catch fish, they will not harm those fish. And consequently, this would help in preserving our environment, saving our wildlife, or saving our marine life. It would help in preserving our environment. The poet says, fishermen in the cold sea, they will stop catching the fish in the sea, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. The man whose job is to gather, collect salt, he has no time. It is probable that his hands are injured, they are bruised, but he has no time to tend to them. Even that man, he would take some time off. He would sit back, he would relax, he would be quiet, and then he would look at his hurt hands and tend to them. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. The poet is addressing the people who prepare green wars. Green wars are war against environment. Those who prepare means those people who indulge in wars, war against the environment. People who uh, go on destroying the environment. People who are destroying the environment, right? Who indulge in war against the environment. Wars with gas, wars with fire. And people in general who are indulging in wars using gas as a medium sometimes, who indulge in wars using fire as a medium. Victory with no survivors. The poet is discussing the outcome of a war. We have a victory in a war, but the irony of being victorious is that there are no survivors also. People lose their lives, they get killed in a war. They would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers. The poet says that people who indulge in wars, uh, they would put on clean clothes. Don't take the literal meaning here. It doesn't mean that they need to put on clean clothes. Here it means that they need to undergo a cleansing of their souls. They need to go a change in their souls, in their mindset, that they need to stop all kinds of wars, and they would walk about with their brothers. Brothers are people of the world, people on the whole globe. So they would shun the wars and they would walk about with the people of the world, with their brothers, with the fellow beings in the world, in the shade doing nothing. Now, what does a shade do? A shady place provides comfort to the people who are traveling in the hot sun. So it, as a shady place provides comfort to people, it makes people help relax themselves. Similarly, let's make this world a shady place, a comfortable place, a place where everybody is happy and comfortable and there is no insecurity in anyone's mind doing nothing. The poet reiterates, he stresses that the main thing is that one should not do anything, one should stop all his actions. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Here, the poet brings to our notice that when he says that people should not do anything, they should keep quiet, one should not confuse it with total inactivity. He is not advocating inactivity, he is not saying that people should stop doing anything. Why? Because life is what it is about. Life is what is life about? Life is all about living life to the fullest. Life is all about be up and doing something in life. Life is all about leading life, living life purposefully, creatively, with positivity. I want no truck with death. The meaning of the expression is given below: to refuse to associate or deal with, to refuse to tolerate something. The poet says he doesn't want, it's not the literal meaning here, a truck, a person dying under the truck. He says that he doesn't want any person to be associated with any destruction, to be associated with any activity which results in the death of the fellow beings. If we were not so single minded means selfish, about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing. A very important line. The poet says, he rather reflects, he highlights that we human beings are selfish people. We want that we should avail all the facilities, luxuries of life. Our life should keep on moving smoothly, and we are least concerned about the lives of the other people. If we were not so selfish, single minded about keeping our lives moving, we are all the time concerned about this thing that our lives should move on smoothly and for once could do nothing. And suppose we are given a chance to do nothing in our lives, perhaps a huge silence. Suppose we are given time, a break of huge silence. This might interfere, this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. When we are selfish, we may get whatever we want to achieve in our lives, but because we are selfish, we may fail to understand the real motive of our lives. People may leave us alone. People may not appreciate us because we are selfish. So, such selfish people, when they fail to understand the real meaning of their lives, when they fail to find a meaning in their lives, they threaten, they do not understand the real purpose of their having taken human birth, and they threaten themselves. Threaten means they put in danger, they threaten themselves with death. Are they invite suicidal tendencies, suicidal thoughts. They may achieve everything in life, but when they fail to understand the real purpose of their lives, they become sad. They invite uh, suicidal thoughts in their mind. So again, I'm reading. Perhaps a huge silence might interfere with this sadness of never understanding ourselves. We fail to understand the real purpose of our human lives, and consequently, we threaten ourselves with death. We threaten our existence with negative thoughts, with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now, the poet has taken the help of nature to explain to us why we need to be quiet in life for some time, why we need silence, why do we need a break in our lives. The poet says that perhaps we can learn from earth also, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. I would like to quote two examples here. During winters, the leaves fall off from trees, and the trees remain barren throughout the winter season. But when the spring season comes, the leaves again explodes. The tree again explodes into beautiful spring. The new leaves, soft leaves comes, buds come, flowers come. So, the tree which observed silence for some time, it later on, at an appropriate time, exploded into a beautiful tree. The second example is a seed that remains inactive, that remains latent in the ground. that also when appropriate time comes, or say when the seed observes silence for some time, and when the right time comes, the seed also sprouts into a beautiful plant. So when everything seems dead, the barren trees, the latent seed, and later proves to be alive. So when we observe some silence, when we take a break, when we remain quiet for some time, something good, purposeful, positive comes out of us. Now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. The poet says, now he'll count up to 12 and then he wants us to be quiet, doing nothing, and then he will go. Where will he go? He will go and spread the same message of peace, of harmony, of this exercise in meditation to the rest of the humanity. Let's have a look at the question answers. What will counting up to 12 and keeping still help us achieve? Counting up to 12 and keeping still will help us introspect ourselves. It will help us look within ourselves so that we realize the real aim of our being human, and something purposeful, positive, good comes out from within us. Do you think the poet advocates total inactivity and death? No, the poet is not advocating total inactivity and death. He simply wants people to observe silence, to be quiet for some time. Why? Because there cannot be total inactivity on earth, because life is all about leading life to the fullest. Life keeps on going. Life never stops with the death of a person. So people should not be associated with any negative activity, death of people, destructive activity on earth. What is the sadness that the poet, question number 3, what is the sadness that the poet refers to in the poem? The sadness referred here is that we human beings are selfish. We are all the time thinking about keeping our lives moving. We want all the comforts of the world, and we are not bothered about the happy lives of other people. We are not bothered about our fellow beings. And when we fail to understand, we have been given birth to uplift humanity, to help each other. But when we tend to be selfish, we fail to understand the real motive of our lives, and then sadness jumps into our lives and we threaten ourselves with negative thoughts. Question number 4, what symbol from nature does the poet invoke to say that there can be life under apparent stillness? The symbols of nature can be barren trees, trees without any leaf during winter seasons, and the same tree is laden with a lot of leaves, um, birds and flowers and fruits in the spring season. The second example can be of a seed which remains inactive for some time. It also, after observing silence, explodes into or bursts into a beautiful plant when the right time comes. Thank you.